have the honor of introducing Goldie Chan, our guest speaker today, who is also the author of the recent book, Personal Branding for Introverts. My name is Erika Fischer, for those of you that are not in my class, and I teach in the StratCom department. We are very lucky to have Goldie here because, of course, she hails from Los Angeles, but she is connected to a Murrow kook, so she's part of the connected fam. So one of the things that I was thinking about, it's interesting about communications, is that I think that if you're on campus and you're in a different department, you just assume that communication majors and people that work in communications are all extroverts. But those of us that are in the department, and then those of us that have worked in communications, know that's not the truth at all. In fact, some of the most effective strategic communicators are, in fact, introverts. And so if you think about creative directors, strategic thinkers, sometimes professors, and so forth, many of these people that really are, again, some of the most valuable people in this industry are, in fact, introverts. So I think this is going to be a very relevant topic for us. More than that, actually, if you think about introversion, a lot of times we talk about management of energy, which is something I think we all struggle with. So whether you're an extrovert or introvert, we can learn from that type of thing too. And Goldie talks a little bit about that as well. Okay, so I brought my cheat sheet because I wanted to highlight some of the background that informs Goldie's perspective here and her thought leadership. And so I've been following her on LinkedIn, and over a couple of weeks, I understand why she has been deemed as the Oprah of Huffington Post, and Oprah of LinkedIn, according to Huffington Post, and one of LinkedIn's top voices. So we talk in StratCom a little bit about LinkedIn is a influencer platform, and some people have different opinions about which platforms are the best for influencers, but we have evidence here that LinkedIn is growing in that way. Her book on personal branding for introverts actually is already a bestseller, which indicates that people value what she has to say. She's also the founder of Warm Robots, an award-winning social strategy agency. She was named Woman to Watch in Leadership in 2026, and she's been featured in New York Times, Entrepreneur, NASDAQ, Fast Company, and recently I just noticed on LinkedIn, you can see that she's been on CNBC, which is a business channel. As a Forbes alum and global keynote speaker with nearly 500,000 followers across her platform, she helps Fortune 500 companies and then other organizations and leaders within those companies develop community and a presence through brand storytelling, which is something we talk a lot about in StratCom. She is also a cancer survivor, and I think that is likely partially what informs both her wisdom and her empathy in terms of how she sees these topics. And I still think about the cobbler's shoes, or the lack of shoes for the cobbler, that analogy. Okay. She also has found time for her passion, which is passion project, which is Archie Comics, which you may touch upon. And so in some of the panels we talked about following your passion. The closing panel will talk about following your passion, and I think now you see evidence is possible as well as being successful in StratCom. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Goldie.
Thank you so much. I have to say this, I am not an alum, but can I get a go? Yay! Okay, that's so fun. Okay, hi everyone, thank you so much for attending here, and especially if who here would deem themselves an introvert? Okay, who here is an extrovert? I know, I was like, high hands, right? Who here is an ambivert? Maybe you're in between, right? Beautiful, okay. So I want this session to be as helpful as humanly possible. So we're going to fly through a ton of information today. And also, I would be remiss not to say, I will be signing books from 1 to 2 p.m. at the bookie. So stop by, grab a book for yourself or another introvert in your life. Let's roll. So hi, I'm Goldie Chan. That's me holding a book. All right, so I am an author. I am a LinkedIn creator. I created over 800 daily consecutive videos. And so if somebody tells you you can't do it, you absolutely can. And you can do it with almost no budget. And that's also how I became a LinkedIn top voice, is I simply went and for 2 years, every single day, not skipping a single day, I created a video and just edited it, made it myself. I'm the founder of Warm Robots, a social strategy agency. I'm also an ex-senior contributor for Forbes, so familiar with journalism. And I'm an Archie comics writer, which I love because I grew up reading Archie comics, and now I get to write comics as a fun side hobby as well. I also collect trinkets. Who here loves trinkets? Little things? Yeah. Who doesn't love trinkets? Okay. So let's keep going. So I have to have a logo page. So here's my logo page. I've worked with or spoken with these brands. So here's a ton of different brands that I've worked with, everyone from Pantone, green, to LinkedIn, Lego, Logitech, all of these very cool places. And because I write Archie comics, I go to a lot of comic book conventions too, which I absolutely love. Okay, and also here's some of the places that I've been featured. Very oddly, my book was featured in Vulture because, does anybody know who Rami Malek is? Rami Malek apparently got an early copy of my book and then read it and then told a Vulture writer, you should check out this book, it's pretty cool, it's about introverts. So pretty fun, and these are some of the other places that I've been featured: New York Times, Fast Company, Forbes, CNBC, The Information, etc. Okay, but I'm also an introvert. And so you might be wondering, well, what are you doing being a public speaker and also being an introvert at the same time? Fundamentally, and I write about this in my book, I believe that you can be a loud introvert. So for anyone out there in this room, if you ever have something that you've cared about and you've started talking with your friends about it and gotten very loud, right? That moment when you really care and you're really enthusiastic about something, that is your loud introvert moment. And I want you to start thinking about what moments that you are loud in, because that usually means something that you care about and you really like. And for those of you out there saying, well, what I like has nothing to do with my future career, yes, it does. There's always elements that you can bring into your future career. Okay, so now we're getting into the meat of things. What is personal branding? Here are 3 pieces of personal branding: who you are, what you do, and why you matter. So it's the who, what, and why. And right now, you may be figuring out who you are, right? And you also might be figuring out what you want to do later. And the third part, why you matter. Every single person in this room already matters, right? It's just these other 2 that we need to start working on. We need to start thinking, who am I in this situation? And what do I want to end up doing? And part of that is going to school, is figuring out the number 2. Okay, so I have a great exercise I like to do. It's called the 3 golden keywords for personal branding. I call them soft keywords and hard keywords. So soft keywords are the adjectives that you would like to be known for. So maybe that's warm, maybe that's insightful, maybe that's funny. The hard keywords are, what skills or job roles do you want to be known for, right? Or do you want to eventually do? So maybe you want to be a warm and funny journalist, right? Or an insightful and thoughtful engineer. So these are the 3 keywords I want you to start thinking about, because once you understand what your 3 keywords are, you can filter the rest of your personal brand through those 3 very insightful and thoughtful keywords. And once again, you may not know what these keywords are right now as you're figuring out the who of who you are and the what you want to do. But I want you to start thinking about this. It's all about simplifying down with personal branding. Okay, so the 5 C's of personal branding. We're going to go over all 5 of these C's. We have clarity, consistency, competency, confidence, and community. And in some of the other talks that you've been attending, I've been sitting in on some of the other amazing panels here, you've probably heard of some of these other ones, especially I think community. I hear a lot about community here, and I'm very excited to hear about it. So let's get started. Let's jump in. Let's talk about clarity. Okay, so clarity means, once again, it goes back to the who. Who are you at your core? It is being able to describe a concept very cleanly. So for example, I'll take a show that I saw in the lobby of the Cub. which is SpongeBob SquarePants. So that is a show about, can anyone tell me what that show is about? Is it about a pineapple? No, it's about a sponge that lives in a pineapple under the sea, right? So clarity is knowing who you are. Clarity is knowing who you want to be known as. And this is going to be helpful, and I'll go a little bit into LinkedIn later, but clarity is going to be very helpful when you're starting to think about what should I put on LinkedIn. In fact, let's do a hand raise. Who here is on LinkedIn? Great. I'm so excited to see so many people on LinkedIn. For sure, I was not on LinkedIn in college because it did not exist when I was in college. Yeah, I know, I'm getting out of my walker. But yes, so clarity is knowing what you want to be known for. So if you've ever heard of the words SEO, search engine optimization, I'd like to think there's also LEO, LinkedIn engine optimization. You want to be the kind of terms that people are looking for on LinkedIn. So knowing those kind of terms and tying that to your clarity is going to be helpful. Also, I never learned how to snap my fingers. So there's the empty air right there. Okay, consistency. We want to be very consistent with our brand. What does that mean? It means if you're already thinking about posting on LinkedIn, if you're already thinking about sharing some of the projects that you're currently working on, how can we be really consistent with what our brand is, right? Do we want to always be known as someone who is very insightful? How can the content that we create over time be really thoughtful about, I am an insightful person? So whenever you post on LinkedIn, think about how can I have these dots connect, right? Every single time you post on a platform, it is a dot, regardless of the platform that you post on. But I'm going to be talking primarily about LinkedIn because that is the job platform. So consistency is super important. Okay, competency. What is competency? Competency is you know how to do it, whatever it is. Competency is you are someone that is very good or good enough at whatever it is you want to be hired for. So we want to show competency over time. We want to show competency and consistency. If you want to be hired, for example, to be a writer, it's helpful to show that you know how to write, right? So we always want to show our competency, that we know how to do what we're saying we do. Okay, confidence. Whew, this is a big one. So I'm going to do a physical exercise with y'all that I did at VidCon, which is a big video conference in LA with a bunch of YouTubers. So this is the exercise I did with a bunch of introvert YouTubers. You can all do it with me right now. Okay, we're all going to do this. I want you to roll your shoulders back. Okay, do it one more time. Whoop. Okay, one more time. Whoop. Okay, now pretend somebody's taking a little string, top of your head, pulling you up. So just do that motion with me. We're going to pull up. Okay. Now, are you sitting a little straighter in your chair now? Yes. Do you feel a little more confident? These are just little exercises you can do even every single day. You're in a classroom. You're about to present. I want you to roll your shoulders back 3 times, right? And you're going to pull yourself up. And maybe don't do exactly this in the classroom, but pretend to do this. And even physically having good posture makes you more confident. Now, there's a million psychological things that, of course, make you more confident too. I'm going to do something else with you, which, you know, introverts never want to do this. So we're going to do it together, okay? We're going to clap and normally I say really loudly, but we're going to say coog really loudly. Okay, so we're going to clap and we're going to say coog really loudly on the count of 3. Ready? 3, 2, 1, coog! No, louder. 3, 2, 1, coog! Okay, so whenever you feel a little insecure, I want you to go to the freaking bathroom and I want you to, excuse my French, and I want you to clap really loud and say coog, and if anybody asks, you're like, well, I'm cheering or I'm, you know, and notice that when you clap, I'm an introvert with deep social anxiety, which might surprise all of y'all. And whenever I clap, this is an exercise I actually got from my therapist. Clapping, the physical motion of clapping, especially clapping loudly, gets you out of your headspace, right? And saying something that is not, I'm so anxious, also gets you out of that same headspace. So hopefully these are two things that make you feel a little bit more confident that you can start doing and putting it, and maybe it's not the word kook, maybe it's something else. But confidence is so important, and I want you to start developing it now, so when you get to my age, you're so supremely confident. Okay, community, last one. So your personal brand, your job search, all of this is built off the backs of your community. It's who you know. So one thing that I like to say is, especially if you have a LinkedIn profile, is who are 5 people that you can add by the end of this week? I have no idea what day of the week it is. I've been traveling a lot, but who are 5 people you could add by Sunday? Who are 5 people you know, right? And they can be people that are in your class, because it seems like everyone in this room has a LinkedIn. They can be your professors. They can be other people that are your mentors. Who are 5 people that you can add at the end of this week? And in fact, I will give you regular homework. I'm going to give you homework throughout this, but I want you by the end of this month to add 15 new people to your LinkedIn, okay? I want you to add 15 new people that are not currently on your LinkedIn. And the reason why is we're starting to develop our online community. But I also want to say a quick note about community in general is, it might surprise you, it might not, and I'm sure you've heard this too, is when you are in college, the people that you know now who, I'm not going to say inappropriate things, but the people you know who may be a little stupid, or do little things that you're like, oh, are they gonna end up with real jobs? Those are sometimes the people who end up being like CEOs of major companies, and it will really surprise you. So your peers, that's the amazing community that will maybe hire you later on in life. So it's so important to have friends. This is my friends list. This suddenly devolved into that. But it's important that think about your friends right now, have community. If you don't have friends, please make some friends. Okay. That's not what this talk is about. Okay. 5 quick and real personal branding tips for introverts. Okay. I love thinking about this. I'm not going to make people raise their hands for this, but hopefully you have a bank account or you have some place where you store money that's not your pillowcase. I also want you to start thinking about places that you store content, right? So many of you are working on so many projects. You're working on so many different things. How can you turn that into a post for social media? And then how can you store it in your evergreen content vault? How can you start storing case studies of what you do? How can you get 5 of them in a row and start storing those to start posting later? Because I'm sure, and I've been in this situation too, where you make it, you post it, you make it, you post it, you make it, you post it. I want you to start thinking long term. How can I start taking days, like 1 day a month, where I just take all the schoolwork I've done, all of the amazing projects that I've done, and make 5 case studies out of that, right? And I will share those on social media later. So you're banking in your evergreen content vault. But you also need a reply bank. So here's where you're going to withdraw from. Your reply bank is if people are, say, messaging you on a professional platform, because once again, I'm not going to talk about Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok. When people are saying things that are professional to you, like, oh, we have an internship open, which I'm sure would be very delightful to get. What is a reply that you could commonly say? Or, hey, I'd love to hire you for this, or I'd love to bring you on for this. What are replies? How can we get a reply bank that is the same consistent replies over time? So we have the evergreen content vault we deposit into, and then we have the reply bank we withdraw from. Okay, using our templates to streamline content creation. So just an example, I just launched a Substack earlier this year. It's called Slow Start, Hard Stop. And I use templates specifically on Adobe Express to resize all of my graphics. So it's really helpful. So how can you repurpose, resize, and reuse content as well? And then collaborative content. Okay, so this is perfect. You are literally in school right now. This is the biggest one I can point to. Who can you collaborate with? How can you start creating content with your peers? How can you start cross-posting with each other, right? On LinkedIn, you unfortunately cannot do shared posts, but on Instagram, you can. So how can you start sharing posts across your different Instagram accounts with different places that you're working with? How can you do more collaborative content over time? Okay, low social days. This is maybe more true for people who are actively out in the workforce, but also maybe true for you. Who here has not had a single day off of social media in the last 30 days? Yeah, everyone in this room probably can raise their hand. So I want you to start thinking, how can I have one day off a month where I'm literally not on social media, right? This goes counterproductive to building a personal brand. But the reason why we do this is it's good for your mental health. It's also just good for you to have a day off where you're not on social media. It's very healthy. So I want you to start thinking, what's one day, let's think about this. What's one day a month where I can be creating content? And what's one day a month I can be off social media? And we want to start developing these good habits early. Okay, LinkedIn 101. I just made these slides last night. So if there's any spelling errors, I am not responsible. Okay, so platform-specific best practices. Okay, so this is how I like to break down the different platforms. And there's so many more than this, of course. But LinkedIn is where you're sharing your insights. It's where you share your knowledge, what you know. Instagram and Pinterest is where you share visual things. So can you share an infographic? Can you share a case study that's very visual? One of my mentees just shared this great post where she worked at her college and it's her with her mascot and then like everybody out on the football field just like screaming, and it's a great picture, and that will do well on Instagram and Pinterest. There's also, of course, TikTok and Snapchat, which are quick and real moments. And what we always want to do is think about, how can we stop the scroll? How can we get people to stop scrolling? So obviously TikTok and Snapchat, I'm not going to talk about that right now because that is a lot. But on Instagram, how can we stop people with that visual image? And on LinkedIn, how can we stop people with that first line? How can we stop the scroll on LinkedIn with that very first line of text? Okay, so LinkedIn, a little bit of background. LinkedIn has over 1 billion members worldwide. And it is really the professionals platform. It is where you can get a job. It is the networking platform. It's a hub of opportunity for jobs and business development. And it's great for credibility and visibility of your brand. So I literally made this slide last night. So you want to use a clear headline that shows your interest along with, say, student at WSU. And you want to write a short about section that explains what you care about and what roles you're aiming for. So I know this feels counterintuitive, but saying that you want an internship in XYZ is actually helpful, right? It doesn't make you look desperate. It's very helpful to be very clear about what you want and to share that, because not everyone knows what you're looking for. And also, we do this specifically in the About section because then that LEO, that LinkedIn engine optimization can find us. It can find us when they're looking for interns for blah, 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 right? So we want to optimize for those keywords that they're searching for. And if it doesn't exist on your LinkedIn, they can't find you, okay? Also, just general stuff you should be adding. Class projects, writing samples, campaigns, videos. LinkedIn video is how I got started on LinkedIn, but now you can use LinkedIn video to showcase a lot of different things. And if you know about, for example, Instagram carousels, which are super popular on Instagram right now, LinkedIn has its own version of carousels. It's basically a PDF that you export and then you drop on. So it will show up, I forget what it's actually called on LinkedIn, but you basically export as a PDF and then you drop that on there, and then it is basically a carousel. And you can do the same kinds of carousels than you maybe do on Instagram. Okay, second slide. List campus roles, internships, volunteer work. There are places to do this. And if you haven't already started your LinkedIn and really filled it out, I would say now is the time to do that. Also add skills like writing, social media, research, public speaking, Adobe and Microsoft software. So any software that you're learning how to use right now, you can put that all on your LinkedIn as well. And then also, if your professors or supervisors at work are on LinkedIn too, there's a recommendation section where you can ask them for a recommendation as well. And engage weekly with commenting. So my rule of thumb with commenting on LinkedIn is to identify 5 to 10 people that you think are very interesting and to start commenting once a week on those 5 to 10 people that you find interesting. We don't do it every single day because then you're a stalker. We don't like that, right? You don't want to be the person that is stalking other people's profiles, but it is helpful to be commenting regularly, and it will put you in the LinkedIn feed much higher. Okay, choosing the right profile picture. It should be well lit and clear, and you can take a great LinkedIn profile picture using, of course, your mobile device. You can do it with a friend who has a great camera, and the framing should really be this. So the framing should be kind of shoulder and above and like this. Any closer and you get what I like to call the serial killer picture, where you have like this, right? You don't want that. And what you also don't want is, inappropriate, but somebody I know had a picture that was them in a bikini holding a gun with a beer bottle in the other hand, and a person weirdly like very far in the background. Inappropriate picture, okay? Just letting you know in case any of you have one of those pictures and you're thinking about posting them. Inappropriate, right? We want this. We want clear, clean background. You don't need to smile, but please look a little less like a serial killer, okay? Simple and or on-brand background. So if you have inexplicably right now even a color that you really like, you can have that color be the color of the background of your photo. For me, everything is green. Okay, create a clear, memorable headline. So this is that tagline. And once again, we want it to be SEO friendly or LEO friendly. The headline formula: who you help, how you help them, and your differentiator. So are you a video creator, but specifically for sports, right? And then what is your differentiator? You do very short, quick videos for sports. That might be your differentiator. So how can you create a headline that does this? Who you help, how you help them, and then what is your major differentiator? And I'm already running long, so we're gonna keep flying. Okay, posting basics. What works on LinkedIn? Clear and concise. This is my friend Jade, she's great. Hook driven, value packed. So as you can see, I fear we have lost the plot, right? This kind of grabs your attention, and then you want to keep reading. So hers was on the comment section on LinkedIn. Think about what are the first 2 sentences that you use on LinkedIn, and that can honestly be even more important than the image, the visuals that you use. Okay, so let's talk AI. So really quickly, this is the AI that I use, which is Adobe Acrobat AI Assistant. Specifically, I like it better than some of the other AIs that we all know about. Shout out to chat, I guess. In that it is a safe environment, so you can put in a ton of different documents, and then you can have them understand those different documents all in one go, and it won't feed it back into the LLM. So since I'm here, I will give you the AI safety lecture. Be really careful about what you feed into AI, because AI will train off of that. And what we don't want is, of course, that if we are an amazing writer, that AI trains off our writing very early. Unfortunately or fortunately for me, I wrote hundreds of articles for Forbes. So AI knows my writing very well because it scraped all of my Forbes articles. Okay, so I created this fun space. It's just a few of my articles. Feel free to scan it if you like. And you can ask some questions about career success and branding. So it's a free resource. Feel free to scan here. Boop. Give you 5 seconds to do that. Okay, so more. Let's talk prompting. This is suddenly the AI mini course. So here's some ways to think about effective prompts if you ever are curious about prompting. Avoid vagueness, inappropriate, unethical content, slang, jargon, and formal language, conflicting instructions, overcomplicating your prompts or assuming prior knowledge. Here is a fun prompt structure if you ever want to do more prompting. I'm gonna keep going through. A quick thought, automate what you can, but keep your presence and your content thoughtful. And your responses should feel very personal, which is more relatable, and it will help you build a brand that lasts. So now you're on your way to being an introvert with amazing personal brand. So I want you to try taking a selfie or sharing one learning lessons and a quote from today and tag me on LinkedIn. And I will go and personally like it. Okay, so please tag me. I have over 100,000 followers, so it's good for you to do it. So this is your homework / medicine. Please do this. Homework. Bonus. Also, you can get a personal branding goal worksheet that I made for today. So feel free to also scan this. Get a free 1 to 2 page worksheet that I'm so happy to give you all for free. And it just goes through some of the ideas that we went through today and some of the ideas in my book. So, yay, free worksheet. I'll give you guys one more time. Okay, so also shout out to the bookie. If you want to buy my book, here's a QR code, and you can then buy my book directly from the bookie, which we all love. And I will also be there today at 1 to 2 p.m. Signing books and giving out more bookmarks if I have any left. And thank you so much. So here's the different places you can find me. Order my book. This is my personal website, and connect with me on LinkedIn. You would be surprised how many people scan this and then never connect with me. Pro tip, also on connecting with people on LinkedIn. Last pro tip, which is there is a part when you connect with somebody on LinkedIn where you can say add a note. I will tell you 99.99% of people who add me on LinkedIn, and I get hundreds of requests every week, do not add a single message. And I read personally all the messages that people say. So if you say, hi, I heard you speak at WSU, I will be 99.99% more likely to add you. But in general, when you're doing outreach to people, when you're connecting with people, make sure that you always add a note. And don't add an insanely long note, right? Add just a few words. In fact, I'll give you the number. Add less than 15 words, right? You want to just say enough so people know who you are, but not enough that people think it's a form letter, which we don't like. So thank you, everyone. And I think we have some time for questions. So let's get questions. Yes, let's start there.
I was wondering, so as an introvert, sometimes
Yes.
when you get a lot of like messages on your emails or your inbox on social media, it can be like kind of, I don't know why, it's like it gets so overwhelming that I don't even want to look at it.
Yes.
And so then I kind of let it fester, and then it gets late to like reply to people.
Yes.
How do you stay on top of that, and what do you do to kind of, stay on top of that?
So I go into the corner, I curl up in a little, no, just kidding.
Yes.
So what I do is once a week, this is actually what I tell my personal brand clients who are C-level executives too, once a week, pick a day. It's a pain day. Maybe it's Thursday, maybe it's Friday. One day a week, you absolutely have to answer those messages. You set aside a time, 9 to 10 a.m. One day a week, 1 hour a week. Those are your answer messages time, and you have to do it. It is a commitment you make to yourself. And if every other day of the week feels overwhelming, this one time, 1 day a week, we just muscle our way through it, right? Okay.
Hi, I am Erin Mullins.
Oh yeah, sorry. Also say your name, say what you're studying, and then
Murrow alumni.
Yeah.
And since I got laid off from my journalism job in nearby Colfax, Washington, I've been just doing non-career jobs for money, as well as freelance journalism, and I'm starting to work on my own journalism projects. And then who knows, maybe freelancing and my own stuff takes off and I do that, but I'm at least stuck in Colfax for a while until I can save up enough money to move and stuff.
Fair.
And then I'm wondering, okay, am I doing enough to keep myself relevant? How do I find opportunities to build a personal brand in an isolated farm town of 3,000? And then how do I phrase to future employers I had to stay in an area to save up to move after I got laid off? Does that seem lame?
No.
Okay.
Okay, next one. No, just kidding. I would say. So first of all, the cool thing about the internet, which also didn't exist when I was in college, no, just kidding, It barely existed when I was in college. But the cool thing about the internet is we can do remote writing. And especially if you're a writer. And there's also remote journalism jobs. So I would be looking at what are remote jobs that I could do now to build up my resume and my portfolio. Also, whenever I think about the words portfolio, resume, what could I be doing for maybe lower than I want to be paid now that I can showcase to the employers I actually want to be hired by? And also, I think everybody has had a moment in their life where they have been in a non-ideal place, literally, physically, or emotionally, or mentally. And the way you phrase this to employers is, you have stuff going on. I really wanted to swear just then, but I didn't. You have cool stuff going on. So cool stuff can mean a variety of different things. It could be, I'm volunteering and doing this journalism for XYZ, or I'm working at this outlet remotely, right? I'm doing freelance for these people. So I would, if I was you, I would be looking at what are cool freelance opportunities I could be doing remotely that will get me the actual job that I want. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah, and so you're never not doing work. You're doing the work. You just happen to be living in the place you're living. Yeah. Okay, who else? Questions? Raise your hands. I know it's a room full of introverts. Yeah.
You mentioned about like posting something every day.
Yes.
I started trying to do a thing where just like make a video and just post it.
Yeah.
But what do you do on days when there's like nothing happening, or I guess it feels like nothing's going on? Like what kind of thing could you make in that situation?
So first of all, I would not wish posting daily for 2 years on my worst enemy. I did it because I just went, I don't know, not so. And I really was motivated to do it, so I just did it. But I would say posting every day, that can be a very big stressor on yourself. And I think give yourself grace to not post daily. But if you're looking for things to post, one of my friends came out with this other book. It's called The Good Enough Job. And what I love about it is the words good enough. So I'm going to assume so many people in this room are very type A, maybe perfectionists, maybe overachievers. So you're like, well, I don't want to put on the internet if it's not good enough. I will tell you, if you've ever been on TikTok, there are so many people who believe in the good enough theory, right? And I want you to start thinking about, what can I start sharing that is good enough but still gets me towards my goals, right? So that might be a day in the life. That might be you walking to class and just sharing an insight or a learning that you just had, right? And that might be imperfectly shot, imperfectly edited, but it is still a piece of content that you can share. So I want you to start thinking good enough. What is a passing grade for your content? And instead of being a perfectionist and sharing only perfect things. That being said, of course, it shouldn't all be just good enough. It should also be good. But giving yourself grace to post those things that are less than perfect. More, yes.
So I know when you're talking about posting on LinkedIn, like it's a lot of like trying to be insightful, and that's how you really catch somebody's eye.
Yeah.
As a 20-year-old who's trying to figure out the industry and doesn't actually really know a whole lot yet,
Yeah.
I guess what would I post that can still be insightful and catch people's eye, even if it's like it's a 20-year-old who's trying to figure it out?
Yeah, totally. So I know 45-year-olds who post things that are not insightful and they don't know anything. But I will say, so as a 20-year-old, one thing that's helpful to think about is what I just said. What are you learning? What's one thing? In fact, more homework. I love assigning homework. I want you to post this week one thing that you learned, preferably from this or something else. What's one thing that you learned? And start thinking about that. If you want a cadence, which is, I love that word, the regularity of posting. If you want one thing that you can do every single week, what is one thing you learned from one of your classes? And start posting that. So when you're 20, you should be sharing what you're learning. I will also argue that when you're 50, you should be sharing what you're learning. But when you're 20, you should be sharing what you're learning and not always like, well, I just did this, because as a 20-year-old, that can often come across as, it's a little interesting. But you can always be sharing what you're learning in class. So you can say like, I just learned this, or I just learned this principle. Or what is even more powerful to employers, I'm going to use a C word. Oh, yeah. Curiosity. What are you curious about, right? What did you go on a rabbit hole that's appropriate about? What did you learn about? What can you share from those learnings? What are you just interested in? It doesn't always have to be things that you've made because you're 20. But it can be, oh, I was really interested in learning how this person does this. So I went down a rabbit hole and here's 3 things I learned from that, right? So what are you curious about and what can you share that you're learning in school? Okay, other questions? Other questions? Yes.
How do you get out of consumption and into creation?
Oh, that's tough. So I like to set aside, like I said, time. So I will do this, right? I have 1 day a week where I'm just creating, and then 1 hour a day where I'm suffering, aka replying to people. And then I have another day of a week where I'm posting. I'm scheduling and posting. So that way, if you think about it, that's only 2 days and an hour that I'm taking out of my full week to do that. So if I am a consumer and I like to just watch everything, that's totally fine. I just make sure that every Wednesday I post one thing. I post at least one thing every Wednesday. So by midnight Wednesday, it's 11:58. I better make something in the next 2 minutes and I better post. So that's how I, as a procrastinator, which some of you may know this word, ha ha ha, I do that. So I just give myself deadlines. I say, if I don't post by this time, then I'm in big trouble with myself, right? And so that's when also good enough comes in, because I will procrastinate sometimes till the very last minute, but I will still make it out in time because I give myself deadlines. And you need to start doing that. Like, I'm sure all of you have calendars, digital calendars, and to set those little alarms and to set those things in your calendar every week. So you have 3 different bullet points for that week now that are around content creation and posting. And just having deadlines you give yourself, and you must stick with these deadlines. You need to treat it like class. Just, if you need to say it, just be like Goldie Chan class 101, right? LinkedIn 101. This is LinkedIn 101. You will do this for the rest of the year. And the way I also think about it is, if you can stick with something for 3 months, you will likely stick with it for the whole year. So you just need to get through 3 months of being really consistent over time. Other questions? Yes.
Do you have any recommendations on apps or websites or platforms that you use to stay on top of content creation? I know you mentioned Adobe, but
Yeah.
do you have any other like calendar apps, for example, or anything like that?
I mean, I use regular Google apps and stuff like that. So bad. I think my tech stack is basically me and Adobe. But I also, for example, for editing, I don't know. I use InShot. I use a phone app, a mobile app to do that. In terms of other technology that I think is helpful, honestly, there's like so many new apps coming out all the time that it becomes just so overwhelming that I just stick to my Google suite of stuff, which is honestly very helpful. So, any other questions? Yes.
You should get a selfie with the audience behind you.
Oh yeah. Okay, let's do that. I'm gonna give it one last question and then let's do a selfie together. Who has one last question? Yes.
Okay, so I was wondering, like, obviously posting that much, building your own brand, like doing your own company stuff, that takes a lot of time and effort.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if pursuing your dreams in this way, has it made it harder to develop like personal friendships and relationships? And how do you balance being your own creator with like trying to put yourself out there?
I really want to be like, I'm so alone right now. That's my partner right there who's videoing me. Yay! I'm not single. Yeah, I think running my own business has been personally, yes, it's very hard to run your own business. I will say this, I have friends though at 9-to-5 jobs or who are in regular roles who also find it incredibly hard. Everything is about, I know you probably hear this phrase a lot, work-life balance. For y'all, it's school-life balance, right? It's finding the time to do things that are important for you. And, as a cancer survivor, I have to say that one of the most important things that I've realized is the personal relationships that I have with other people. Because at the end of the day, work is work and job is a job and my agency is my agency. but my friends are the ones that brought me stacks of comic books when I was sick. So those people are the most important people in my life. So I personally prioritize that. So before, I would say actually before cancer, I would never turn down a speaking gig to go just hang out with my friends at a cat jazz cafe. But now I absolutely would, because with my priorities, and this is why priorities are so, so important, you need to also know who is in your inner circle, right? I think about a king's council. I think if you're a king, you always have an advisory council of a few people. It's really helpful to know who is in your king or queen or non-binary circle, right? Who are the most important people in your life that you will not do work over, that you will prioritize over other things. And it's good to know who those people are, because then you will always have your priorities straight. And I think as people get older, and I'm sure you'll meet lots of people who are older who are workaholics, who are just like, oh, I never say no to anything. I like muscle through it. Like, I have a great career. And it's often those people who are very lonely and don't have friends. And those are, I find those are actually the people who are the most like, I wish I was young again because I had so many friends back then. I had so much time. So it's really important. Always know who your king's council is, right? And prioritize those people, because those people will stay important through really most of your life. Any last questions that we have? I'm gonna do a selfie if that's okay. I'm sure this is very cringy for y'all, but I'm gonna do it. So if everybody can gather around, or just stand up, or don't look too upset in this picture. Okay, everybody. 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you.